Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Dr. Psych Mom Show. Today, we're going to be talking about the overemphasis on the penis. Can't all ride on the penis. And before we get to that topic, which I'm sure you are just on tenterhooks to hear about, please do subscribe. My most recent one was on how to act like a happy adult if you never saw a happy adult, and how to be a happy adult as a template for your children to learn how to be a happy adult. But how are you a happy adult? You don't know what that looks like because your home life was dysfunctional, and I guide you through it. So subscribe for that one and like 90 something, almost 100 others. All right. So frequently, people tell me that they're struggling with sexual issues, and these involve erectile dysfunction. And as I talked about in the Erections, Wax, and Wane People podcast, as well as literally a podcast on premature ejaculation, this happens because guys are anxious. Yes, of course. Also, they get old. Fine. Everybody gets old. Time marches on. Time waits for no man. No penis it eludes the grasp of time. But also, as you get older, you have, less natural testosterone and whatever, but then your anxiety, which was probably always there and contributes to premature ejaculation and also erectile dysfunction. So your testosterone isn't enough to outweigh your anxiety. You're going to be anxious. So the first time you lose your erection, then you're going to be anxious that it's going to happen every time. So then it gets in your head and then you can't calm down and whatever. But what makes this better? It makes it better if you have other shit to do, right? Except use your penis. Because if everything is about your penis, then you're gonna have to stop having sex a lot earlier in your lifespan than a guy who's partnered with somebody who understands, and they shouldn't understand it through no communication, like you would have to communicate it, that the penis cannot be the central organ, it can't be the main, the cover story anymore, it really can't. It's just really not fair. A lot of women, all women eventually, stop getting as wet over time. That's just some shit that happens with age. And can you imagine, and I always make this analogy because it really helps people understand, can you imagine how much you would hate sex as a woman? You're like, man, I'm already there. But let me finish the sentence. How much you would hate it if it was all riding on you getting wet. If he was sitting there with some scientific device to calibrate how wet you were getting, and then if you were wet enough, then he was going to enjoy the encounter, and if you weren't wet enough, then he wasn't, and there's no way for him to have an orgasm unless you're wet enough, and lube does not exist in the world, well, shit, you're never going to want to have sex again. You're going to get so anxious and resentful. You're going to be like, why can't we do something else? Why can't we do other sexual activities that we would enjoy while I get wet? Or maybe I'm just not going to get wet and I can enjoy myself anyway, and that's exactly how the man feels, except because our culture is so porn-centric, every guy and many women think that it's all about the penis, and that if he doesn't have a raging erection, then it's no good. That's bullshit. As I talked about in the other podcast, there was this ridiculous TikTok where this guy's like, don't get a man that needs you to play with it to make it wake up. What the fuck? So he's saying only get a man basically that's 25 years old. Because what if he has a job presentation the next day? What? I don't even understand. It would be so insane to say, don't get a woman who needs you to touch her genitals for her to get aroused. That's literally crazy. That's the stuff that guys think when they're 16 years old and they've only watched porn. They're like, oh, I know what turns on a woman. A big dick. A big dick turns on a woman. She basically always has an orgasm, even if she just sees a big dick. It's so easy to give a woman an orgasm. Just whip out the dick, right? That's something that basically a boy thinks, and hopefully a grown man understands that he has to stimulate a woman in order for her to get aroused. So how is it different? A penis is a sexual organ too. So you need to stimulate it for it to get aroused. Yes, men have more testosterone, and especially when they're young, they get erections freely, even against their will. But as they get older, they need to have it stimulated. This should not be a shock for anybody that owns a clitoris, right? Because you need to be stimulated in order to get off. So he needs to be stimulated in order for it to get off. So people need to, as I said in a different podcast, diversify your sex life portfolio for long-term success. I was proud of that at the time. It's a little corny, but whatever. And this means you got to be doing a lot of shit. It can't all be riding on the penis. If it's all riding on the man showing up and whipping out a fully erect penis, do you want to stop having sex at age 50? Because that's when a lot of the time he gets anxious, he gets in his head, his testosterone isn't where it used to be. Sometimes he skips a morning erection. That can happen earlier too. Also, by the way, there's a lot of men struggling with health issues that are also on medications. There's men who are overweight. There are a lot of men by the statistics, a lot of women too. That doesn't help with your erectile ability. And any medication doesn't. Antidepressants don't. There's just so many variables. If you're just waiting for a man to have the same erection and the erectile capacity that he had at 25, you're going to be waiting a long time. And you may prematurely end your sex life much earlier in your lifespan than you would have if you figured out that there's other kinds of sex like oral and manual stimulation and foreplay. And so that's another thing, is that there's a lot of women, obviously, as I've talked about, who have a sexual blueprint. Go back to Erotic Blueprint podcast. And so they get turned on by intercourse pretty much only. So you get turned on by intercourse. I understand, but you know what? If your favorite flavor of ice cream isn't at the ice cream store, do you just not get ice cream, ever? No. Sometimes in adulthood, we can't always get what we want. So you may have to be flexible. What a surprise. And compromise and empathize. So if engaging in 10-15 minutes of foreplay turns on your partner, you also can learn and grow and evolve. And a woman with a sexual blueprint can turn into, sure, she likes intercourse, but she also likes the lead up and how excited her husband gets. And that's a turn on. And remember, you still do have genitals and you could be looking at them all day, all night, whatever turns you on about genitals, but it doesn't have to just be intercourse, And so even a woman with an erotic sexual blueprint that's primarily sexual can learn to also find other things arousing. So it's really, can you imagine how people would come down on a man who is like, no, I just really like to have penis and vagina sex and I like to do it instantly. So she got to be wet right away, or she has to really have pre-lubed. I don't want to waste my time, So from my perspective, she's wet right away. However she made it happen, cool. And then we have sex for 5 minutes on the dot. I come and, hopefully she came too, and then we're done. Everybody would be like, what a Neanderthal. He needs to listen to the Dr. Psych Mom show. What a piece of shit, right? Yet women say this type of stuff, basically implicitly all the time. And also, the other thing is sometimes women are like, well, if he can't get it up, then, maybe we are done having sex. Maybe he really just doesn't want to that bad. Yes, he does. Most likely. If he doesn't, he'll tell you. But he probably does. He's just scared of you. He's scared of your judgment and your disapprobation when he gets soft. Because in your world, the two of you that you've created, that's based on things that don't exist, but that many people share in a large shared delusion, which is also shared with porn. Everything has been about your penis and your erection. So if you don't have your erection, this is a catastrophe. It isn't a catastrophe. That's the time to get creative and to think about other ways to make sure that both partners are fulfilled. He still wants to have sex. He's just terrified to try without having an erection because of the way that that's gone before. So what are other ways? As I've said, oral sex, manual sex. When I talk about the Oral Sex on Women podcast that you should have subscribed to listen to, I talk about how a lot of women don't actually like oral sex because they feel lonely. He's all the way down there. He's probably not even very good. And They don't like it. It's just they're cold. There's no blanket on. They don't like the whole thing. But manual stimulation is what most women do to masturbate. Remember, I told you about the damn vibrator. Put away the vibrator. You got to learn how to give each other orgasms without toys. What would you do if you were on a desert island? Would you just never have sex? You're like, yes, but no, that is the wrong answer. So if a woman can learn to give herself, an orgasm with her hands, then there's no reason that a man shouldn't too. That the man should not learn exactly what the woman does, that he could do the same thing or better even. Maybe he could make it his mission to be even better than she is with her own body, which is possible. There's always like these people sometimes that comment, on TikToks or whatever, or in life, or they're like, no woman can give a hand job as good as, the one that I could give myself. That's not true. Who have you been with? Like if somebody, a man or a woman, in whichever way you have it, if you've trained somebody to give you a good hand job of either gender, of course it's better than you doing it, because they're doing a good job. Plus they're like a human being who's there and excited by you. So of course you can. That just tells me that person has not had a very good sex life yet. But anyway, I digress. So the point is, don't make everything about the erection. If you make everything about the erection, think how shitty it would be if he made everything about whether your clitoris was engorged to the right capacity and he's measuring it with some kind of device. Unless you're very, very unusual, that does not turn you on. In fact, it makes you think that would be literally a nightmare. And that's how a guy's going to feel once he lost his erection at least once, which guys lose their erection from anxiety when they're like fucking 15 years old, that always happens, because fight, flight, and freeze doesn't include fight, flight, freeze, or fuck. You can't fuck when the tiger is bearing down on you, right? Because that all of your senses are engaged in leaving a dangerous situation. So when you look at your husband's soft penis with contempt, that's like a tiger staring him down. That shit only has to happen one time, and from then on, it's hard for him to get an erection. And a lot of women don't look at it with contempt, but they do something equally bad, which is they think it's them. They think it means that he's not attracted to them. And the majority of women think this. Guys are always surprised to hear this. This is the funniest one. I'm like, well, of course, she feels bad then. So you have to make sure to tell her that it's not about her. They say, oh, she doesn't think it's about her. I feel bad and embarrassed because it's about me. I say, so let me ask you, if she doesn't get aroused, do you think it's about her or about you? Oh, it's about me. She's not attracted to me. I'm like, how does it work? How does that work? That's logically crazy. So if she doesn't get turned on, it's about you. But if you don't get an erection, she doesn't think it's about her? Of course she does. You got to tell her, babe, I'm aging. This happens now. Sometimes I skip getting morning wood too, by the way. Not my favorite topic, but it has nothing to do with you. I still think you're beautiful, but I'm just going to need some more touching, which sounds pretty good, and which is something that I like anyway, and it's my favorite part anyway, is the foreplay and the touching and being around you and being close. And that's how she's going to understand that it's not about her, because women don't take biology courses either, and biology courses don't even really cover this. So you want to make sure that your wife also doesn't think that you are not getting hard anymore because her aging body is disgusting to you, because very few men are in that situation. If you are in that situation, well, shit, if you want to keep having sex with her, you still got to tell her that it's not her, don't you? Because you want to be a nice guy. And there's really no other recourse, because if you want to keep having sex with her, and you love her, then you're attracted enough to her that you shouldn't want to upset her. So you should reassure her. And it still is mostly about you, because if it only started happening recently, whatever. There's times where young men are with women that they don't find that attractive, and if they're young enough, they still have a great erection. So, it's more about you. It's more about aging and anxiety than it is about the woman generally. But anyway, so what is the overarching theme of this? As per usual, open communication is key and necessary if you want a sex life that can stand the test of time and that can make you feel close and connected even throughout the vicissitudes of aging and, anatomical differences over time, such as the penis not being the penis it used to be. But you know what? None of the genitals and none of the bodies, they're connected connected to are what they used to be either, because people age, and that is fine, and that is totally normal. And if also, by the way, stop watching so much porn if you do, because then you won't keep thinking that everybody's supposed to have a rock hard, 10-inch erection, which they don't. And that's not helping. That's not helping anything. All right. So hopefully you got something out of this, and it's, again, a good one to discuss on your own. Bring that up. If your partner is somebody who likes listening to me, then thank them very much, because they, that's great that they like to listen to what you like to listen to. But if they have told you they don't want to hear from me anymore, that means that you want to bring up this by yourself, which you can do. All right. Have a great day, guys. Talk to y'all soon.